The wood that I used to make this gate could be seen on an episode of The Ellen Show. There's kind of an interesting story to that, which I'll get to in a moment. But first, let me show you how I built this chicken tractor. Wanted something small and easy to assemble that would house about 15 or maybe 20 birds. This is what I got done in one afternoon. The basic premise for this design was based on kind of a culmination of a lot of different design elements that I saw from other chicken tractors that people had made out of cattle panel. Obviously, this could be made bigger. You could add an additional cattle panel, which would give you more length. But this is made out of just 2 cattle panel. The base, I decided to use 8-foot 2x4, which is pressure treated. I didn't cut these down. Essentially, I just butted them up and used angle brackets to connect them. Lengthwise, it is 8 feet, and widthwise, it's 7 feet 5 inch. This interior space gives me 60 square feet of floor space, and utilizing the square footage recommendation per bird of 4 square feet per bird, that will allow me to comfortably house 15 birds in here. Once I had initially secured this butt joint with my angle brackets, I came and drilled in at an angle from there and from here, and I came in and sunk 5-inch deck screws across both ends to further secure that. The next step was to put the cattle panel in. These are entire 16-foot panels. I wanted the amount of height that I have in here because I will be able to walk through without hitting my head. So the higher the better as far as I'm concerned. For point of reference, I'm 6'1", and my head has, about maybe 2 inches above it. I basically married up the 2 smaller ends together, and this is right where my joint sits. The thing of note is that this doesn't fit in here perfectly, so I had to trim off one of these squares. I used my cutoff saw to take off this last bit of panel, and that allowed it to come pretty close to this butt end. However, I'm going to have to do some fancy manipulation down there just to secure this because it didn't quite fit inside of the footprint. By putting the 2 cattle panels with the small ends together where they join, it was the closest I could get to having this actually fit inside once it was cut. However, as you can see, there's still a little bit of overlap. So I'm going to have to get a little fancy here as far as securing this portion down below. What I use to connect the 2 panels is just this smooth wire. It has no barbs in it. And then I just unroll it so I can get a single wire, cut off an appropriate amount, and then just fashion them in this way about every couple of feet. I decided to make this door frame opening wider than probably what is necessary, but I wanted to be able to get my wheelbarrow in here, and I didn't want to sell myself short, so I wound up coming out to this width and making my cuts first for these verticals, and then start bringing in my bracing at that point. I decided to use plumber's tape, cut to every 3rd hole, and just run a couple of screws through, which secures this quite nicely. Verticals and all of the bracing material was fastened in a similar fashion. Drilled in at an angle and basically toe-nailed in with 3-inch and 4-inch screws. 4-inch screw, 4-inch screw, 3-inch screw, 3-inch screw. Coming off my angle brace, I decided to utilize some scrap material that I had to add some additional bracing from the angle brace over to the side, and that just provided a good deal more rigidity to this portion of it, and I'll be doing something similar in the back. All of these support structures that are attached to the base, I've ensured that they're at least 1/4 inch or more up so that they're not going to drag. Similarly, I'll be going and cutting off all of these that are extended down so that they're not going to be grabbing. Essentially, that's what I was able to complete on this particular project in a few hours worth of work yesterday. I'm going to go ahead and get to work on it today, and we'll see kind of where we go from there. I'm going to move these verticals in a little bit more, but I want to make sure I get kind of a rough level up and down to where they're going to be measured up top. And then down below, I'm utilizing just a screwdriver, just enough to raise that up about 1/4 of an inch. Now that I've got the back end of this enclosed, it's significantly more rigid. Got a piece of scrap that's nearly the perfect size that I cut down. And then I've got a little bit left over that I'll be able to fill in the top section. But as you can see, I'll secure this here. And then this end and the far end over where the door's at is going to be hardware cloth. And then up and over the top of this, there's enough structural support where I'll be able to utilize something a little lighter weight, like chicken wire will be more than adequate to keep the birds in, but keep predators out. In lieu of putting on more structural support, which at this point it does not need, because it's very, very rigid. Side to side, it's stout. I'm very happy with the structural integrity of it at this point. So I have some elastomeric paint that I'm going to go ahead and put a coat on this, which will just extend the life of this entire structure by a significant amount, protecting this raw wood. So I'm going to go ahead and tape off the bottom, take a few minutes to do that. I've set this out on pallet sheets, but that's just another really good use of these pallet sheets. Like I said, I use these things like nonstop on the property. Thanks for your help.
You're welcome.
As far as from a function standpoint, it's going to work no matter what, but aesthetics actually does matter to me a little bit. So I'm taking my time trying to get this stretched as best that I can so that it not only looks decent, but it's going to serve the intended purpose. Some hog rings and some hog ring pliers to secure this. I'm utilizing a bunch of staples that are just used for Romex. That's what I've secured the hardware cloth on the ends with. And then anywhere that there's wood, I'm just using these staples. What I've done is I've left about 2 inches of overhang of my hardware cloth. And then so as the chicken wire is over the top of it, I can stretch that chicken wire now. I'll use my hog rings that will go through this hardware cloth on both sides, and it'll sandwich all this material together so that it will be married up very nicely. Now what I'm able to do is to take a little bit of the slack out of this wire, and then I'm also putting the hog ring around this junction as well, which will help to strengthen the bond between all of this, the wire as well as the two pieces. Here's some more material that I wind up getting from a waste stream in town. And I utilize this not only to make biochar with, but for other projects around here. And I'm going to go ahead and use some of this to secure the lower end of where the wire attaches to the base plate of the chicken tractor. So what's the story behind this gate? Well, the wood that I used to make this gate was salvaged from a home that burned down in the Carr fire in Redding, California. That home was my son and his wife's home. Subsequently, they were invited to be on the Ellen Show and got to tell their story. But if you watch the video from this, you'll note that it's the only thing left standing. And the reason why it's the only thing left standing is because this wood was extremely green at the time. It was being installed the day of the fire. So therefore, all that green lumber wasn't able to catch fire. I salvaged it, we brought it here, and I've been using it for projects ever since. I'll link to that video at the end of this. Go check it out if you like. It's kind of an interesting little piece, but please consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching as always, and we'll see you in the next one.